the money in his second budget at 2013 levels. If they would have followed the path of House Bill 119, the local government fund would be $1.38 billion more in this budget than what is proposed. $1.378 billion to provide services like police officers, firefighters, and emergency medical services and other essential services that are provided locally and best provided locally. So we've talked a little bit about the history of local government funds, how they came to be, and how they've been cut. I'm going to ask Mark Sanders, president of the Ohio Association of Professional Firefighters, to talk about where the money has went.
Good morning. As Jay said, I'm Mark Sanders, president of the Ohio Association of Professional Firefighters, and once again, police officers, firefighters, EMS workers across Ohio really want to sound the alarm to Ohio citizens that, as Jay noted, if things were left untouched and the ebb and flow of the normal economic cycle goes forward, local governments wouldn't be cutting as they are still today in these improving economic times. Representing members, professional firefighters in nearly 300 jurisdictions across Ohio, we've noted in the last 2 years nearly 220 levies, tax increases for new revenue or increased revenue have been put on local ballots. As Jay noted, and as you all know, in the first budget, the Kasich administration justified their cuts of local government funds by saying tough economic times or that recession requires sacrifice. Police officers, firefighters, EMS workers, and all functions of local government across the state sacrificed to do our part. But the level of sacrifice imposed by the Kasich administration has been selective. As noted, state tax cuts, personal income tax cuts have not been the sacrifice across the board. And we'll also remember that Kasich justified cutting the local government fund by saying worst recession since the Great Depression to put the state in a financial bind. We understood that, but now the economy is improving and state tax revenues are climbing dramatically. The administration itself estimates that state revenues will climb by 28% from 2010 to 2014. Another $500 million surplus again this year, which, as President McDonald noted, it's been reported that we will have a nearly $2 billion surplus or rainy day fund after this budget. I'm a Cincinnati firefighter, lieutenant in Cincinnati, and a local report down there is reported by our county auditor, who just was quoted saying that these state budgets have had an increase of 17% in certain areas: staffing, House, Senate, legislative services, while local governments have had a decrease of 57% over that same time period. In sum, the Kasich administration and the leadership continues to starve local governments while breaking promises to Ohio citizens that have been a covenant since the 1930s that depend on these basic services. Governor Kasich elected officials have lost touch with the priorities of everyday citizens by not even having discussions on how to restore some level of fairness in local government funding. Not only is this manifestly unfair, but it consigns citizens and local communities to fend for themselves in the future to determine the fate of endless local tax increases, or by simply doing without with regard to basic services and public safety services of police, fire, and other agencies. As we noted, over 220, now that's just public safety. That's just public safety local tax increases or levies. That's not across the board. So is it just me, or is it everyday citizens who are wondering, what's with this $2 billion rainy day fund? Well, we got news for you. It's raining. It's still raining in local governments. We are still cutting. We're still trying to do more with less. Broken promises and a lack of priority, misguided tax policies have been adversely affecting Ohio's citizens in the last budget, and they continue to do so as Ohio continues its turnaround.